the ConAgra folks had a really good and great presentation about the role of brands working as publishers. And that's something, in my current role at Kellogg, I'm in charge of a lot of our storytelling efforts. So it's not just how we manage our channels, but how are we developing the stories that we put out on Facebook and Twitter and our blogs and whatnot to really engage with our consumers. In that role, the question that we're trying to answer is, how do we work with our agency partners to best do that? Because the reality is that even though digital is exploding, there's still a lot of budget pressure. There's also a lot of opportunities as well between new agency models and the increasing sharp skills of our in-house team and even freelancers we work with. There are just so many different ways that we can get our content produced. There's so many different ways that we can get our stories produced. And so that's really changing that dynamic of who does what and who's responsible for what. Between the agencies, the brands, freelancers, and others. This is also causing a shift in the skills for our team. One example of this right now is that I work very closely with our communications team and our PR team. What a very important skill set that they need to have now is being able to write for search. That's something that wasn't really on the radar for a lot of folks a couple years ago. If you're a PR person, search is something that our search team does. I don't need to worry about Google. That's changed. That's a skill set that communication team members need to have in this day. And so on the panel here, we've got a group of folks representing agency side, brand side, talent management, recruiting side as well. And so we're going to talk about what are some of the impacts of some of these changes and new models and new opportunities. And then also how do, as individual practitioners in your various roles, what can you do to be aware of these changes, to adapt to the changes, and keep yourselves sharp and smart in this area? So I think we'll start off with closest to me, and we'll have Amy go ahead and introduce herself.
Excellent. Hi, everybody. I'm Amy Corin. I am a digital marketing manager for Sears Home Services, and I represent two brands, which is Sears Home Improvement and Sears Parts Direct. So you'll be hearing me talk about our hybrid model of in-house and agency social media.
Great. Daniela?
Hi, I'm Daniela Peeting. I have two roles at Motorola Solutions. I'm our social media manager for North America and our global co-lead for our social media center of excellence.
Hi, I'm Josh Ehart. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at Energy BBDO in Chicago. I lead all of the digital and social efforts for the agency.
I'm the one with a microphone. Is it working? Camille Fetter with Talent Foot Executive Search. I've been recruiting in the digital industry for over a dozen years. Our firm is specialized at the director level and above for agencies, the brand side, ad tech, and martech. So we get to see the industry from all facets, and it's certainly an interesting time and a great time to be a digital marketer.
Great. Okay. Thanks. So first question I want to pose, and the way that we'll run the panel today is that we've got a list of questions. We'll have some time for the end for questions from the audience as well. But as panelists, we'll keep it free form. We don't need to go down the row and have every single person answer the question, but certainly feel free to jump in anywhere and everywhere. So first question, agency versus in-house resources versus freelance resources. Which ones would you choose for a given project, and how has that changed over the past 3 or 4 years?
Well, I can start with that. I would say, echoing what we just heard from ConAgra, owning the strategy and the messaging is so important at the brand level. So really, strategy starts in-house and messaging starts in-house. And then you look to your partners to help build upon and support those initiatives and bring new ideas to the table. Depending on which hat I'm wearing, we do a lot of work in-house and then pass it to the agency to help us tune it up and really get it out there in their best way. But we also review every single word that goes out on all channels and make sure that it aligns with the brand. And sometimes, no matter how many times you share your messaging or your hashtag, mistakes slip through or the wrong hashtag gets used, or you just want to make sure that you're on top of it. And at the end of the day, the buck stops with the brand. So it's easy to pass off blame, but that's why you need to own it from the beginning and also manage really closely every step of the process.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that. I think at Motorola Solutions, we definitely have a hybrid approach, and we really approach it in the same way, where the brand controls the strategy and the messaging. As a team of one for social media, I really rely on the agency and or the freelancer to get everything done that I can't get to. So whether it's a paid campaign, whether it's organic, whether it's around an event, I'm pretty limited in my time and energy, so I need to rely on that agency. And it really helps if you're speaking the same language, if they have the same skill set, if they understand the brand, if they understand what you're trying to achieve. So that's how we accomplish it and work with our agencies.
Oh, so we are going to go down. I think on this one we probably will. It might
this one, at least.
not. It might not surprise you to know that I think agency, but I think there's a reality to how all of this works. Where the real answer is it sort of depends. It depends on how your organization goes to market, how those brands are built and organized internally. We tend to work best with brands who view us as partners in the creation of the brand's defining idea and purpose, and then the creative platform that brand uses to express itself. And for a lot of that communication, we're in a good spot to be able to create that work for our brand partners, given that we're creating it already for a lot of other channels. So that integration of idea has some advantages. I think as agency partners, we owe it to our clients to be able to produce that content in as quickly and as efficiently as the market requires. If we can't do that, then there's lots of other solutions that brands and companies can pursue.
Yeah. Okay.
And from the talent side, we're typically working with organizations of all sizes, but if we're talking bigger brands, Fortune 1000, we're consulting with these organizations and trying to assess the strengths and weaknesses within, right, their marketing departments. And when we see a real weakness, maybe it's creativity or innovation or progressive thinking, then we'll say, this may be a function you want to leverage your agency partners for, or potentially, if you're looking at adding 50 million more in paid social next year, maybe you should bring a resource in-house to manage that. It's especially if it's going to be that big of an expense, right? So it really does depend on the strengths and weaknesses from our perspective of what these organizations have in-house when it comes to recognizing what they should bring in-house versus what they should depend on their agencies for.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point. I know I can speak from my personal experience. I've been at Kellogg for nearly 3 years. I was at McDonald's for 5 years before that. And in that 8-year span, I think we've shifted our model for who's in charge of different channels and how we're producing content and how we're using freelancers versus agency. Probably every 18 months, it feels like. Have you guys had any similar experiences in terms of either on the brand side, how you've changed those models, or on the agency side, how you've adapted to changes with your client expectations?
Go ahead.
Sure. I've only been at Motorola Solutions for 2 years, and when I got there, the agency that was working with our integrated marketing team, I don't think was a good fit on the social side. So we really had to prove that we needed a change, and we had to find an agency that required less hand-holding on our side, from not having to write the copy, not having to come up with a strategy. So it took a little while, but we did get a better fit, and I think it allowed us to be a bit more creative, a bit more experimental, look at ideas that we hadn't considered before. So finding that right fit was very important to us.
And I'd like to add, I've been working in social since before brands were even able to have their own page on Facebook. So if you remember the days of integration within like the zombies and werewolf apps, like that was me trying to get brands in front of their target audience. But one of the interesting things about social is it is owned by the people. And there's also a lot of conflict about who owns it within the agency relationships, right? There's awesome PR campaigns, some of the examples we just saw from ConAgra. So like the dining room could have been a PR play to get those impressions and get people talking about it. Is it an experiential play like the dining room campaign they mentioned, where you're actually bringing people to the brand? Is it purely digital? So there's so many agency partners that are fighting for a seat of the social media budget and think that they can do it better than anybody else, which is why it's so important that the brand is involved and bringing all the partners together to the table to work together. Because what we don't want is conflicting messages, like the PR team doing something that we know nothing about on the social side, or customer service and support, or talent acquisition using one hashtag that's not aligned with our overall hashtag. So it's awesome that so many different divisions want to get involved and jump in, but really making sure that you have a strategy that's disseminated across the organization and to the vendor partners is so important. And then it's trying to get the vendors to work together as partners, really, truly. They see us as partners as the brand, but we need them to be partners with each other. So PR and social can work together, for example, planning an event and then paying to amplify it across the board.
I'm going to put Josh on the spot here then. How do you make the case for your agency to be a part at that table? And what do you think, how do you differentiate yourself? Here's what my agency offers that is unique and leading.
I think what that is has changed over time. I think we've seen shifts with a lot of clients where responsibility for social channels has evolved. To your point, it's gone from marketing service sort of distinct teams to being the responsibility of those brand teams themselves with support and expert advice from centers of excellence, but that execution sits with the brand. Our point of view, as social channels have changed, they have become part of the broader marketing mix in a more, for lack of a better term, traditional sense. They are scaled platforms that required paid media to generate visibility and reach, and that makes it, for better or for worse, more like advertising than it's ever been. They are distinct channels where you need to create distinct creative. What we say is, with all of these channels, fragmentation is a real issue. And one of the ways to combat that fragmentation is to look for fewer and fewer partners to interpret or reinterpret what the brand stands for. And so we think that consolidation and the efficiency that we can deliver in creating work for this channel is sort of how we sort of position ourselves.
For anyone, what have you found has been the biggest struggle in trying to deliver meaningful experiences through these social channels as they've evolved and become more paid centric?
I mean, the toughest thing really is, I think, trying to navigate the channel's evolution themselves and the changes that they've made to advance their businesses. If anybody has worked with any of the platforms for an extended period of time, you've seen how they talk about themselves change significantly. Facebook went from being, it's a brand new kind of marketing and you're creating community and trying to create engagement, to it's really a reach play where you're going to a target audience and you can use film from other channels, to put in there. And I think what we've got to do is navigate the balance of that. Consumer expectations in these channels are definitely different for the type of content that they want. And our job is to figure out how to give them content that they're going to find valuable when they have, nothing more than a simple movement of a thumb to move past your message.
Yeah. So, Amy and Daniela, on the brand side, is that something that, are you able to keep up with that evolution? Is that something that you look for your agency to help keep you sharp on?
You want to go first?
Sure. For me, it's a little bit of both. I need to be on top of what's happening with all the social networks, and do we need to explore a new social network? Do we need to remove some? What does our mix look like? And I really love our new social agency. I feel like they're very in touch with the social networks. They have a great relationship. Sometimes they bring things to me and vice versa. So, it's very imperative that we both are on the same page and that we can learn from each other.
And I would say we are a little bit more reserved at Sears. And remember, I'm on the home services side. So not every channel is right for every brand execution. So for example, our primary channels are Facebook as our #1 information disseminating hub. The Sears Parts Direct Twitter account has 200 followers. And guess what? They had 200 followers when I started 2 years ago. And I see a lot of jaws dropping, like, oh my God, that's so embarrassing. This is Sears with 200 followers. But you know what? That is not our primary channel. If somebody has a DIY appliance repair crisis, they are not going to find the answer on Twitter. They are going to go and bitch about it on Twitter, like, oh my God, my air. I mean, they're going to go voice their frustration about not having air conditioning on a 90-degree day. And we're doing some interesting social listening techniques on Twitter. But in the case of Sears Parts Direct, we're a knowledge center where we have the repair guides, the manuals, and the videos for DIY repair. And we post that information, but just because you come on Twitter and you see our tweet does not mean that you have a broken air conditioner at this exact moment and that you're inclined to fix it yourself. We cannot target to that level on that platform. And on Facebook, we can't target to the broken appliance level, but we can find homeowners, we can find people that are looking to buy, or that are inclined for DIY, et cetera. So one of the things that we're doing that's actually pretty interesting on Twitter is that we're using a partner called Kick Factory for social listening. And we've given them keywords like broken air conditioning, broken refrigerator. So let's say somebody does come on a 90-degree day and vent about their air conditioning not working. We will say, via Kick Factory, oh, we're so sorry to hear that. Check out our DIY air conditioning tips. And people love it, but they also find it creepy, right? They're like, oh my God, how did Sears know that I have a broken air conditioner? But when you link them to the resource, they're happy to hear it. And they only follow us if they need to direct message us, and that's what we invite them to do if they're having a customer service issue. So my goal is to not grow the platform, it's to really engage with them and hear what they're saying. So there are a lot of challenges, but targeting and finding the right platform for the audience is certainly something that's always on our mind.
So it certainly has, I've been working in social media for a long time as well. It certainly has changed in terms of how we're using it and what the focus areas are. You talked about deep targeting, reach and frequency in more of a traditional paid media marketing play. Content's still important, the ability to tell storytelling, community management. There's a whole host of different roles within social media teams right now. I'm going to start with Amy on this one. As a recruiter, what's your advice for people who might be in a particular role? Should they go deep and get deep knowledge expertise? Do you go shallow across a long way of areas? What types of skill sets are you looking for most right now?
Sure. So it depends. Do you want to stay on the agency side? Do you want to go to the brand side? Do you? Our perspective is have a clear direction in mind as it relates to your career, right? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's much more difficult to move to the agency side. It's much more difficult to move to the brand side from the agency side once you're director, VP level, right? It's much easier to move from the agency side to the brand side before you make it to the director level on the agency side. Does that make sense? So, reason being is the skills as you become a more senior executive on the agency side, you tend to have responsibilities such as business development, organically expanding accounts, client services, right? And those skills aren't as transferable to the corporate side, right, into corporate marketing. But in general, we're seeing more and more corporations staff up digital in-house, right? So there is a trend for those who are specialized on the agency side to move to the brand side. So, and then of course the corporate marketers tend to become more generalist over time. So if you see yourself on the CMO path, right, then don't go down the specialized path, right? If you fall in love with analytics and you happen to be an agency executive with that specialty, it is easier to move to the brand side. So there's advantages to both sides of the equation, staying a generalist or becoming a specialist. But I'd say have that, know where you see yourself in 5-10 years. And you can certainly consult with us on your plans, and we're happy to provide you the right guidance you may need.
What about vendors? What about moving to a vendor side of things? There's some great companies in Chicago here.
So vendor side. So if you're looking to, it's much easier for an agency professional to move to the vendor side, generally speaking, than a corporate marketer to move to the vendor side. There's certainly a lot more roles within sales, the sales function on the vendor side in general as it relates to our skill set. So these folks either tend to come from media on the agency side, more so than account service. These are folks typically on the agency side who have met with plenty of vendors in their career, and they know what works and what doesn't, and they're ready to make that transition to the sales side. A lot of folks will go to the sales side because it can be more lucrative, right, for their career. And we can certainly talk about that offline. But in general, if you're someone who is tired of being at your desk 9 to 5, right, or sitting in meetings all day, and you really feel that you would thrive being out consulting with various companies and studying their businesses, and it happens to be in a highly consultative sales capacity, then sales might be for you. So, I think you have to think about where your strengths are and what really excites you when you get out of bed every day. And sometimes that can be moving to the vendor side in a sales capacity. So.
Great. Okay. So we've got just one or two more questions, and we'll open up to the audience for some questions as well. Having been on both the agency side and the client side, when I made that transition, one of the first things I was very conscious of is that the people who were my agency team used to be my colleagues, and now I was on the other side. So whenever I talk to somebody in this capacity, I always have the question of, and we'll start with you, Josh, two parts. What's the one thing that clients do that you wish they would stop? And how can us brand side people be better clients and in better partnership with you?
I think the simplest thing is to view it as a partnership. Both sides have expertise that they can bring to the table, and when you trust each other's expertise and what they're bringing to the conversation, I think you get to a better output. And I think, we each have to recognize the pressures that we both face in sort of building our individual businesses, and then come together around this shared goal. So I think coming to it with a partnership mindset is sort of the best part, the best way you can do it.
Got it. Okay.
That was so PC. You mean you don't love the last minute requests for?
Well, I think of course not. I think, there's also, all right, I'll give you a reason. Remember that we're human beings, and we have to go through our day and get things done just like you do. And I think some of it just is just coming to it as partners and recognizing that we need to treat each other with respect and respect people's time and energy and expertise.
All right, Danielle, we'll flip it to you. What do you think? What's the one thing you wish agencies would stop doing?
Lying to me. No, I'm just kidding. No, we've been, in the last 2 years, we've been through 4 agencies on the social side. And, I was asked to try these different agencies. I knew that they weren't up to par. And just to be honest where your skill set was, what your capacity to handle things are, if you're comfortable in one channel but not another. So for us, really being able to trust the skill set that the agency has, like you said, really having a true partnership, because it's so important. And we have a great agency now, and I couldn't speak any highlier of them.
Great. Amy?
Yeah, I would say the skill set disclosure is really important. I manage multiple agency partners, and some have come in to fill the gaps of our primary agency of record. So for example, we were looking to do an influencer program last year for Sears Home Improvement. So that's on the side for big home improvement projects like roofing, siding, windows, kitchen, and bathroom remodeling. And our agency kept saying like, oh, we got this. And we told them exactly what we were looking for. And they came to the table with a marketing partnership that was like a straight up media buy with a publisher, which we were already doing and we were planning to continue to do. But we were looking for like influencer marketing, blogger style, give them an experience like a preventative HVAC maintenance check and let them write about it, or experiencing the hands-on side of what we had to offer. And honestly, I hate to say that we wasted about 6 to 9 months in a circular conversation with our agency of record saying like, we got this, we got this, we got this, and they kept bringing a marketing partnership to the table. And it's not very easy for us to go through procurement at Sears. We have select vendors, and we have to show that we've RFP'd them and gone through certain things. So if we need to bring somebody new to the table, that's really challenging. So we had our social agency of record pitch this influencer program, missed the mark. We worked with our PR agency who had pitched influencer marketing, and we had some budget changes, and they didn't want to work with our budget. So now we're down 2 agencies that could try to help us with influencer marketing. And then we had to go through the process of onboarding a new agency who actually did an awesome job for us, and we are working with them again for year 2 for home improvement, and we've added Parts Direct. So to the PR agency that didn't think our budget was big enough, well, now they've lost out on 3 full campaigns. But all of this could have been eliminated if we just knew up front that our primary social agency of record was not strong in this influencer category, or that we were not speaking the same language. We would have saved a lot of time. And what ended up happening is our peak season for home improvement is now. It's pretty much May through September. Last year, our campaign launched in July through September. In the grand scheme of things, not a big deal, but super pain for me. Had to explain away why we were delayed, missing the beginning of our season, and had to jump through a lot of additional hoops that could have been eliminated in our planning conversations in 2015. So just know what you're strong at, and if you're not, it's totally okay to say so, and we'll just plan accordingly.
Okay, last question, and I'm going to tee this one up for Camille there on the end. So I think it's a pretty safe assumption everyone is here because they're passionate about digital media, and they're also passionate about growing their careers. We've all been in this space for a while, even if we've just been doing it for a couple of years, and you've seen things that, Camille, specifically you, I'm sure you've seen things that people do that can really help make themselves stand out as a recruit, whether they're an active recruit right now or just thinking about the next job in 5 years. What is that one thing that one piece of advice, the one thing that somebody should do? And then we'll pass down the line and open up for questions.
Impact. What's the impact you've been able to make for your organization, whether it's an agency, it's a vendor, or it's brand side? So measurable results, right? That's what everyone's, I think that's the theme of the day here. Track your performance. Understand how you've been able to impact sales, whether it's for your client on the agency side, or if you're on the brand side directly, you have access to those sales numbers, or if you don't, get access to them, right? So, and when we obviously look at thousands of resumes, right, a year, and when we get a digital marketing resume and we see no numbers on it, nothing that's quantifiable that really points to the results they were able to drive for a business or a brand, it's, we're passing on them. So think about how you're impacting the bottom line and how you're driving growth and revenue, and you should be in good shape.
Anybody else? Any other piece of advice?
I would say network towards your next opportunity, and it's never too late to start doing that. Obviously, Camille has the inside edge of a lot of jobs, but so many jobs and openings and intros come by way of who you know and the outstanding work that you do and that you share with people. So practice your elevator pitch. Don't be afraid to share your impact, like you said, even if it's in casual conversation. And most importantly, hone in on your intent and state it. Like, I really believe strongly in putting out there what you're looking for. Like, so many people don't want to say what their dream job is or what they're trying to do to get there. I have so many people come to me and say, let me know if anything's available. Well, anything what? Right? I don't know. Like, sure, I just drove by Menards and they're hiring. Like, that's available. But, if you say, I'm great at analytics, I'm looking to grow in an in-house analytics role, let me know if you hear of anything. Well, that is much easier for me to remember. And I think of myself as a networker and a connector and a matchmaker, so I'll keep that in the back of my head. And so many other people will too. So don't be embarrassed to put it out there, and really just make sure you talk to so many people at this event, in the halls, in general, and let them know what you're looking to do next.
And I'll just add to that real quick. Really great advice. Have your 30-second elevator pitch ready to go. Who are you? What do you stand for? What's your value proposition, right? Especially those on the sales side, they know every day they're working on their organization's value proposition. But what's your own value proposition, right? Who are you? What do you stand for in the industry? What separates you from your peers? So think about that and have it ready, because you never know when the next time you'll be in an elevator with a Fortune 1000 CEO.
Excellent. We have time for one question from the audience. Yes, back there.
Sure. So I actually found the agency we have now via an article on LinkedIn Pulse. Read the article. It was in line with everything that I've been harping about for the last 2 years. And then went to the website. It was in line with what I was looking for. Filled out a contact form. They responded in less than 2 hours. We had a call in a few days after that. Had a great informational meeting session. I mean, it took them a long time for us to even get the permission to test them. So we had a test project, and it went really well. But I had to make sure that they knew everything that they were getting into, that we're a hot mess behind the screen, and that you need to know everything that you're getting into. And so these are the
Honesty's
people you need
awesome.
to talk
Totally
to,
relate.
right?
Totally relate.
So just being transparent on our end, really taking the time to find who we think is a great fit, and then making sure that I'm presenting them. I had to sell them to my stakeholders internally, otherwise this was never going to happen.
And our take on that is always get them out of the office. Yes, maybe they may be difficult, right, to rope away from their desk, but get them out of the office. Get to know them as a person and as a human being. Learn about their family, right? And I think the dynamic will change instantly.
It can be kind of awkward to like sit and schmooze and do all the outside activities. I used to work on the vendor side. I used to plan these spa days and activities and fun things, which I always tried to make sure you knew who your audience was and what it was that motivated them. So it can be like an authentic experience, because not everybody wants to go to a Cubs rooftop. I don't know who those people are, but not everybody wants to do that. But really knowing what it is that motivates and excites those people is really important. And I can share on a personal side, I went on maternity leave in the fall. I had every single vendor and agency partner acknowledge that in a really nice and meaningful way, whether that's like customizing a sign for my daughter with her name on it. One vendor sent me a gift card to Kitsch Fix, just knowing that I would be too busy to prepare meals. Another agency got us a really cute like winter baby bundle package, and it was really small. But one of the things that they did is every time I went to their office for a meeting, they had this snack that I loved. It was chocolate covered banana bites, and they sell them at Whole Foods. But every time I was like, I love this snack. Where did you get it? So in addition to the baby gift, they actually sent me a couple packages of those chocolate covered banana bites. And that was probably a $4 present. But for me, I'm like, that is my favorite gift that I got, was that they remembered and they sent it to me. So I'm not saying like all of your partners are going to go on maternity leave. But if it's little things like that, if they have an event coming up, maybe let's suggest a manicure, or do something that's meaningful for them that will allow you to just have regular non-work conversation. And I guarantee you, work nuggets will slip out, because they always do. We can't stop talking about work.
Yep.
As much as I love gifts, I had to return some because I work for a company.
that's true.
Yeah.
Know the corporate gift limit.
Yeah. And I felt so bad. They were great gifts, and God, I wanted to keep them so bad. But I had to send them back, and I felt bad returning them. But because some of our clients are actually military and law enforcement and fire and EMS, I can't accept anything. So it's really important for me to have that great connection, either online, offline, whether it's a conversation. So gifts are amazing, but if you can't accept them, try to think outside the box with another way to connect with that stakeholder.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, panel. Great stuff. Thanks for your question from the audience too.